Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to Ben Prawdzik, co-founder at Wage.com. Get payroll data instantly. Wage lets users share income and employment data just like a credit check. I want to give a quick background on you, Ben. You graduated from Yale with a BS in physics before spending several years in technology, investing at Bain Capital. You then went to Stanford to pursue an MBA. And that's where Wage came about. I want to start by talking about, today today we see school prices, college are skyrocketing, and there's a group of people who aren't going to college because they can't finish college with the debt and feel like they can survive. So how important is college today, and how important is an MBA today, do you think?
It's a great question. I think I definitely follow this debate out there around, is a college education worth the price? Is a business school education worth the price and the debt? And I think, like many things in life, I think in some cases, absolutely. And in some cases, probably not. And so, if anything, I think it's probably a good thing. People are a little bit more critical about, judging those trade-offs. I think, for me, I found my undergraduate experience to be incredibly valuable. The network of, friends and colleagues that I still rely on today that I made, the basic, I was a physics major by training. And even though I didn't use that degree in a scientific field, I certainly relied on the strong kind of technical foundation that I built, both in the kind of finance and investing world that I used to work in, and in a lot of the kind of technology and product work I do now. I found my business school experience at Stanford to be kind of equally fulfilling. I think it helped me execute a pretty big career switch from investing to starting a company. It helped me kind of get introduced to the Bay Area and the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And is that the only way to do it? No. I mean, if somebody's scrappy and driven and ambitious, you can find ways to be successful without needing to go to business school. But I think, I think it's very situational dependent.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I think from, college, of course, on top of an amazing education, your ability to learn how to self-regulate, build your network, discipline, things of that nature, I think are so critical. And so, and growing your network is something I hope that everybody focuses on when they're in college, because it's a great place to make new friends and network and things of that nature. So let's talk about you. So, you talk about how, being at school was how you kind of moved from investments in your MBA to starting your own company. So what were some of the things that, that you learned or you heard from mentors that said, you know what, I'm ready to start my own business. I got this idea and I'm ready to start my own business. I mean, that jump is a big jump.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I came into business school thinking that I really wanted to try something entrepreneurial, and I knew I had an interest in financial services and fintech. In my prior role as an investor, I had spent a lot of time looking at deals in the financial services space. Got really interested in what I perceived to be some of the early stage trends and opportunities in fintech. And so, when I came into business school, I thought this is something I want to explore. Stanford in particular, I think, has a really kind of unique, fantastic blend of people who teach but are also practitioners. People who maybe are investors in their day job or were entrepreneurs in a former life, and then come to campus and try to impart some of that wisdom on students. And it was a great way for me to just kind of learn about how to go about early stage company building, how to go about the need finding process. I had a few ideas in early stage fintech that I was interested in kind of testing, and through kind of the guidance and advice of the mentors I met through the business school and the Stanford ecosystem, was able to kind of hone in on one that I think is really interesting, and there's a lot of change happening.
Yeah. When you've been to Yale, you've been to Stanford. What's one thing you learned? What's your biggest number one takeaway from Yale that you learned at Yale?
Biggest number one takeaway from Yale. I mean, I think for me, I was a physics and an econ major, and I think in that experience, at least for me personally, really learned that if I apply myself extremely hard and just work really hard, I can, it was a little bit of a personal learning that I think I'm smart enough to master pretty much, whatever concept I have the time and the focus and the energy to kind of push myself through. So I think it was a little bit of a learning for myself around what I'm capable of when I'm willing to dedicate myself to something.
That's great. I love it. And what about masters? What's one of the biggest lessons and things or things you learned in getting your MBA?
Yeah, I think, I think the biggest thing I learned is the value of surrounding yourself with people who are ambitious and high achieving. And I think, and treating people, everyone you meet, regardless of whether you work with them or you have any professional relationship at that point, but treating people with kind of respect and kindness and establishing a good reputation for yourself with everyone, because you don't know, life is long. You don't know when you may end up wanting to partner with somebody, whether you may want to work with somebody down the road. And if you surround yourself with people who are, ambitious and you have a good reputation personally, that can serve you really well in ways you don't expect.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think those are great tools. So now you have this idea, wage.com, right? And I think I love when I talk to entrepreneurs who have an idea. What was the gap you saw in the marketplace where you said, hey, I got this idea, and here's how you kind of dove in?
Yeah. So one of the trends that, I saw when I was going through the early formations of this is financial institutions that lend money to consumers, right? Whether that's credit cards, whether it's mortgages, auto loans, in the old days may have pretty much just looked at your credit report to make a decision whether or not to lend you money. And increasingly are looking at more factors about you, more kind of alternative data is the buzzword that folks use in lending. And there's been some innovation around other data types to bring that into the consumer lending process. So, there's a fintech unicorn now called Plaid that makes it really easy for people to share their bank account information. And now that's a pretty standard process whenever you're, applying for one of these financial services to link your bank account. And similarly, we started seeing a lot of folks on the lending side wanting to get a view into people's actual payroll information when making a loan decision, right? If you're applying for a mortgage, well, how much money do you make in your job? If you make a certain amount of money, the bank can safely lend you, X amount. And the way that folks primarily do that has been paper-based or manual, asking borrowers to upload copies of their pay stubs, or maybe actually getting a borrower to sign a release form for the lender to then go call their employer and check, hey, how much money does this person make? Is this person still employed? And so we thought there was an opportunity to build kind of a digital version of that workflow where we could go into payroll systems and, like the ADPs and Workdays of the world and say, hey, build a data partnership with us. We'll build basically a data exchange protocol whereby lenders can query our API when they have consent from an individual who's applying for a loan. And, if we have access to that person's payroll history through their payroll processor, we can pull the data in real time, securely share it with the lender. The lender pays for it, and we split the revenue with the payroll processor. So it's kind of this interesting way for everybody to benefit, for users to get, loans closed faster, for payroll processors to make some money, and for lenders to kind of drive efficiency in their business.
Yeah, I mean, efficiency all the way around. I mean, I love when people come up with ideas that make multiple parties more efficient, because all we have is time. Everybody wants to have more time and make more money, and this helps. It helps so many people. So go rewind for me, kind of who planted, the entrepreneurial bug in you, right? Where did that begin?
It's a good question. I think part of it is probably from my parents. I mean, both of my parents in one form or another were entrepreneurs themselves. My dad started a manufacturing business that is basically a supplier into the semiconductor space. And so that was something that he started his career at General Motors, was kind of a mechanical engineer with some material science background, and then found his way into this industry that had a lot of tailwinds behind it, and was very professionally and personally fulfilling for him. And similarly, my mom, different type of business, but she, she's more of an artistic type, and started an art and like an art store in our town. And I think, in both of them, I think it's this idea of kind of following something that you are passionate about or find interesting or have some kind of affinity to in terms of ability and interest, and and having the confidence in yourself to kind of go pursue that. I think, for me, once I felt like I had a little bit of a career footing. I mean, I had a few years of work experience before doing this, which was definitely helpful than no career experience. Maybe I would have benefited from even a little bit more, but I think I felt a similar itch.
Yeah, I love it. It's always good. Sometimes we don't know the seeds that are planted. I know for me, my father was, he had his own dental practice, but it was always, but everyone in my family was an entrepreneur. So, you just kind of like, you grow up around it. You don't even realize, through osmosis what you're learning, or, but it does. I think it gives you that extra jolt of confidence once you're there. Talk to me about wage.com. How did you get that URL? I mean, as soon as, that couldn't have been easy. Everybody, was that something that you went and GoDaddy said, hey, it's free for $11.99? Or, I was just curious when I saw it. Yeah.
No, we had a little bit of an existential naming crisis. I mean, when we started the company, we at first were using just a generic name that we found. We were going by the name Verix, and we owned the .co. We owned Verix.co. It was just a name we made up. Turned out, as we quickly learned, heavily trademarked and widely used by other businesses. And I think it was important for us to have a .com. I mean, there's some, I guess, debate nowadays whether you need that or not. But I think part of what's interesting with our business, right, is we're trying to build partnerships with payroll processors and financial institutions, and we're dealing with sensitive user data. And so it's important for us to kind of project legitimacy and credibility and seriousness. And so I think having a strong domain helps us do that. Having, bank rate encryption, SOC 2 compliance, all these things to kind of show that we are serious and credible and handle data safely. And so our strategy around what do we want to name ourselves and what kind of domain do we want actually was very deliberate from that standpoint. I think Wage, perfectly kind of encapsulates what we do. It is like a, simple one syllable thing, and it is what it is. Like I think it intuitively resonates when people see it.
Yeah.
It was not easy to get the domain. We spent months negotiating with a seller who, one of these folks who owns a small portfolio of domains from way back, and but ultimately I think came to something that was fair and worked for us with some structure around it, and I think is a great home for what is a premium name.
That's great. Well, congratulations on getting that name. It's a great name. We're coming out of COVID as we sit here live July 7th, 2021. What are some of the things now as we're coming out of COVID as a business owner that keep you up at night? And what are you doing to, get those not keeping you up at night?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, one of the things for us, when we started this company, it didn't take a tremendous amount of capital to get it started. Nowadays, given how much you can do with, a lot of the different web tools that are out there, you can get a lot of leverage out of the tools that are out there. And so it didn't take us a ton of money to get this started. And, we've been reasonably cash flow generative kind of from the beginning, just given the nature of how our product works. I think one of the things though that I maybe took for granted when we started this pre-COVID was, I thought, well, there's this great fundraising environment and things are, for early stage companies that show some traction, it's easy to kind of go get financing if you need it. And, when COVID hit, there was a period of time when the funding environment for early stage companies, really froze. I mean, it's hard to kind of remember now because you see all these huge rounds that are getting done.
Right.
But for the first couple, weeks and months, people were really unsure, like, okay, how bad is this going to be? What's the true like damage is going to cause, and how long of the kind of closure or whatever we're going to be in for? And I think it made really clear to me that, circumstances can change for reasons that are totally out of your control on a dime. And so you want to be positioned to be, you want to plan for the worst and hope for the best kind of thing. And so for us, we changed how we thought about our financing situation. We raised a lot more money than we needed, frankly, just because I think for us, it's important to want to have longevity in the business and be able to survive. If there is another downturn, I don't think you want to plan for the business environment being as favorable as it's been, at least for technology companies.
Got a plan B. Right. Absolutely. All right. You ready for a quick speed round?
Sure.
All right. Favorite book and why?
Harry Potter.
That's a good one. Yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I think kind of what I said before. I think, treating people, even if you have no real reason to, with kindness and respect. There can always be more kindness pumped into the world. So I love that. Finish this sentence. One thing every entrepreneur needs to do who's stuck in a job is find mentors.
Yeah. Mentors are so important. Talk a little bit about the power of mentors, because I think it's huge as a business coach and mentor. And having mentors, having business coaches of my own, as a business coach, I think has been priceless my whole life.
Yeah, I think particularly for folks maybe who are in their career, I think the sliver of what you have seen and what is so narrow. And I think it's so invaluable to go find people who have been through it before or can help you identify blind spots that you might not even realize that you have. And if you, if you do that in a way that is respectful and optimistic and easy for the other person, you can also not only get a mentor, but also an advocate who can help open doors for you. And so I think, rather than try to go it alone, you should try to build as many of those kind of career mentors and advocates into your, network as you can.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to end today, because I think mentorship and, like you said, advocates is so important for everybody's growth. A book, there's so many things that can accelerate somebody's growth to make sure that you're just on the right path. So I appreciate it. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, Ben, and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, our ideal client is, any financial institution that does some kind of consumer credit origination, whether you're a mortgage originator, a credit card issuer, an auto lender. We can help you, better validate and underwrite applicants in real time. And so you can find us at wage.com and give us a shout.
I love it. Well, Ben, I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you talking about the power of mentorship, the courage you had to start your own business, all the elements, talking about just discipline and, your parents as entrepreneurs and your education and all of that. So think community, if Ben can help you, please reach out. Ben, this was great. I wish you all the best and continued success with wage.com. Think community, wage.com, Ben Prawdzik. If he can help you, give him a buzz. Ben, thanks, man. This was great.
Thanks, John.